Let's talk about child support, or really any sort of support request in a scenario where the other parent's income reported on their tax returns isn't actually their income. I'm Lauren Hunt. I'm a divorce attorney in New York State, and I've been a divorce attorney for almost 15 years now. And I share on this page information about divorce, family court, child support, custody, all of that, with the goal of making legal information a little bit easier to access by the general public. And today I want to talk about child support in a situation where the one parent's income, as reported on their tax return, isn't actually accurate. And this really kind of falls into two scenarios, right? So first, you have somebody, and I don't want to say that they're two distinct scenarios. Sometimes there's a blend between the two. But first, you have somebody who's self-employed. And they are self-employed and they write off a ton of personal expenses as business expenses. So that's one way that you see imputation happening, or tax returns that don't actually match the spending potential. And then the second situation where you see the tax returns not being correctly reflective of income is when there's cash income, right? So it's just purely unreported income. And again, it's also often somebody who's self-employed, either whole or, got a side gig. And sometimes, like I said, there's a blend between these two scenarios. So let's start with the first scenario. If you have a situation where there are a lot of personal expenses being written off as business expenses, be aware that in New York State, statutorily, you have the right to request that the support magistrate or the judge add back in any personal expenses that were deducted as business expenses, because they shouldn't have been, right? So let's say, and one way to do this is you get a copy of all of the books and records of the business, all of the bank account statements, the credit card statements, PayPal, Venmo, all of that type of stuff, right? And you look to see, hey, are there tons of Amazon charges? Okay, well, then give me the order history from Amazon, because I want to know what you're ordering from Amazon. Is that actually paper for the office, or is that all of our Christmas gifts, right? So you're going to want to look through all of those records and add up everything that is personal, that's not actually business. A lot of the times you see things like mortgage payments, utility payments, gas expenses, food costs, that's a big one. Trips that are written off as business, even though they're actually personal, or sometimes they're a blend between the two. So that's one way to approach it in a situation where the personal expenses might be written off as business expenses. Another way to approach it is by looking at their financial disclosure information. So whether in New York State, if you are in a child support matter or a divorce matter, both parties have to file financial disclosure with the court. In family court, it is called a financial disclosure affidavit, and in Supreme Court, it's called a statement of net worth. Those documents you gotta look at very carefully and high level at the first instance. So I always look at, hey, what do they claim is their income and what do they claim is their expenses? And sometimes those expenses exceed the income. And then I look to see, okay, well, is there accumulating credit card debt that explains that difference between the expenses and the income? If there's not, right, that's an immediate signal that one of those statements, one of those disclosures is wrong. All right, now let's talk about what happens if there's cash income, right? This is a much harder area, I think, to tread, because you don't, when you're adding back in personal expenses that were written as business, you've got some level, most of the time, of black and white expenses, right? You can tell, you can show a judge what they spent the money on. If you're just trying to track cash income, that can be really tough. A few thoughts there. One thought would be that you can focus on, hey, look, judge, this is the lifestyle that they're leading, right? They have a Lamborghini, they have the nanny, they have all of these things. And yet they say that they only earn $30,000 per year. Doesn't make any sense, right? So sometimes it's pretty easy like that. Other times it's a little tough. So you might also want to, if you have a situation where there's cash income and you need to try and prove it, some other documents you might want to consider requesting are things like mortgage applications, because you have to state under oath what your income is for those applications. Another great one is credit card applications, right? You want to think about applications that somebody has to submit where they have to swear to the accuracy of their income. And things like credit card applications or mortgage applications, people typically want to, especially if they're self-employed, they want to go up, right? They want to make sure they get approved. So they might overstate their income. So those are great areas to look if there's some cash income coming in and you need to try and prove it. And then again, another area to look at is just truly showing judges like, hey, listen, here is the lifestyle that this person is leading, and yet here's the income that they claim to earn. The two just don't match up. On that point, if you are in the relationship still, take some time to think through, hey, how can I prove the lifestyle we've got, right? And note it down. Maybe it's a situation where you have 3 different homes and, there's no possible way that you could even pay just the mortgages on those 3 homes with the income that's being claimed. But if you take some time to think it through, there can be a lot of different ways that you can tick and tack to show, hey, there is a level of cash-based income. All right, I hope that was helpful. Our next video is going to talk about maintenance, which used to be called alimony. Stick around.